Again, welcome back to another edition of 60 Super Bowls in 60 days. And sadly, I have some incredibly sad news. I'm ashamed. I am ashamed of the Super Bowl. I am ashamed that I've watched the Super Bowl. I'm ashamed that I even talk about the Super Bowl. I'm even ashamed that the Super Bowl even exists, to God's sakes. I'm ashamed that millions of Americans decided to watch the Super Bowl for the sake of we're watching Super Bowls, which I can't blame the American people, of course. But my God, this Super Bowl was top to bottom the worst Super Bowl in the existence of Super Bowls. I can forgive the Blunder Bowl being bad because, of course, this was the Colts and the Cowboys trying to not win the game, of course, by forcing fumbles and all kinds of stuff. I can forgive the Blunder Bowl for being bad. But from everything, from the entertainment standpoint to the game itself, it just screams of God, this was horrible. This was horrible. Patriots versus Rams, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia, on February 3rd, 2019. I just cannot believe it. And if you're an NFL fan back then, you were thinking to yourself, "Oh, Rams versus Patriots, two great teams. You got the dominance of Tom Brady, you got an incredible Sean McVay, and that incredible offense of Jared Goff, who put up 55 ridiculous points against the Chiefs in a Monday night bing dong." You're thinking to yourself, "Okay, we're gonna get 30, 33 points. That kind of game. It's gonna be a high scoring game. Everybody will love it." Instead, we get 13-3. No, that's not the halftime score. That is literally the entire score. Patriots 13, Rams 3 in the lowest ever score in Super Bowl ever. I can't. Oh my God, it was so bad. And listen, the halftime show. I'm going to talk about the halftime show. I have to talk about the halftime show because this halftime show was kind of like a ripping of the children's hearts, ripping a cord, chainsaw man style. It was brutal, man. But we'll get into let's talk about the stats of teams. Let's talk about the stats, and then we'll get to the egregious part. Tom Brady, 21 of 35 for 262 yards and an interception. Jared Goff, 19 of 38 for 229 yards and an interception. Jesus Christ. Even Peyton Manning can throw a touchdown in that Super Bowl, of course. For the Russians, Sony Michel, 18 carries for 94 yards at 5.22 a carry and a touchdown. And yes, the only touchdown in the game. This was the only touchdown in the entire game. Yeah, that's how bad the Super Bowl was. Although, if you love defenses, this Super Bowl is for you. This Super Bowl is for actually you. You absolute sickos. Maybe I could call it the sicko Super Bowl. I don't know. Maybe my title will be the sicko Super Bowl. Anyways, I digress. Rex Burkhead, seven rushes for 43 yards at 6.14 pop. Todd Gurley for the Rams, 10 carries for 35 yards at 3.5 a pop. And CJ Anderson, 7 carries for 22 yards at 3.14 pop. For the receiving, Julian Edelman, the MVP of the Super Bowl, by the way, and the Super Bowl was a really egregious one with the receiver being the MVP, but I digress. He was brilliant. 10 catches for 141 yards at 14.1 a pop. Rob Gronkowski made one of the biggest plays of the game, probably the only biggest play of the game, with an incredible catch, of course, that take the Patriots to the 1-yard line. 6 catches for 87 yards at 14.5 a pop. For the Rams, Brandon Cooks, 8 catches for 120 yards at 15 a pop. Robert Woods, 5 catches for 70 yards a pop. Josh Reynolds, 3 catches for 28 yards a pop at 9.33 a game. The defense, though, was the real reason why this game was low scoring. Let me just say that right now. The offense was putrid. Let's be honest. The offense was putrid. If you in an NFL that has offense galore with the rules and the scoring and the incredible playmaking, of course, this was putrid in my eyes and putrid in many eyes because we were robbed of a Super Bowl that was supposed to be like the mighty Kansas City Chiefs, the young Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs with incredible playing of Andy Reid and all this kind of stuff. And the Patriots beat them, which, okay, hurts. That's bad. But the real criminal part, of course, is the Rams beating the Saints in the NFC Championship game. And that's not the reason why this is a crime. It's not the game itself. It is the absolute fact that there was not a single pass interference call that robbed the Saints of a Super Bowl, for God's sakes. Now, Was that the reason why the Saints got robbed in the Super Bowl? No, because they had the ball in the overtime and they couldn't do anything, and of course, interception, and that was it. And of course, Saints fan is like, we got robbed of a call, we got robbed, you effing refs and all that stuff. And yeah, I feel you. I kind of feel you, of course. I want to see Drew Brees in a Super Bowl. I do. And we were robbed of a Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, era-defining Super Bowl, of course, that we're supposed to have. And trust me, Saints and Chiefs will be way better than this game. Way better by us standards. It will not be as, low scoring than this, but it'd be like a 2017 game. It'll be decent, of course. And the Saints fan cried foul so much that the NFL decided, let's make pass interference reviewable. And guess what? It did not even work. 1 year, that was it, and we just all have to move on. And listen, Saints fans, let me just tell you something. Yes, that was the worst call in the history of any NFL in a crucial situation like that. The fact there was no flag on the field, the fact that you guys got robbed, I feel you. You should have been in the Super Bowl, and let's be honest, should have beat the Saints and should have won the Super Bowl. Hell, you shouldn't even beat the Patriots, for God's sakes, with one hand tied behind your back on Drew Brees' arm alone. But to sit here and saying that was the reason why you lost, consider the fact that you had control of the game, consider the fact you were dominating the Rams at that point, and you have the ball in the overtime game with Drew Brees as your quarterback and trying to win the game, and you fail all, maybe the blame is on yourself sometimes. Also, by the way, last year, of course, you allowed a touchdown on a Stephon Diggs miracle catch in the miracle of the Minneapolis Miracle, of course. So 2 years in a row, you got, beaten by an incredible play and then got robbed, of course. Like, Jesus, Drew Brees couldn't even catch a break, of course. But even he knows that his time is up. And we'll get to that, of course, tomorrow's Super Bowl, of course. But for now, let's just talk about the defense. Because this was the incredible story of the game. The Patriots defense stymied the Rams. This team, by the way, scored 54 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. Scored all those kind of points. Dominated game, of course. Jared Goff was absolutely amazing, of course. But even he cannot even do anything. This was a Bill Belichick masterclass. We all know Bill Belichick is a great defensive coach. This was a Bill Belichick masterclass. Stephen Gilmore, interception, 5 tackles, forced fumble. Dante Hightower, 2 sacks and 2 tackles. Jonathan Jones, sack and 8 tackles. Kyle Van Noren, sack and 4 tackles. Jason McCourty and Detroit Wise Jr., 5 tackles. Patrick Chung, 4 tackles. Trey Flowers, 3 tackles. David Andrews, forced fumble recovery. And for the Rams defense, they were not bad as well. This was a defensive game, as I mentioned. Corey Littleton, interception and 10 tackles. John Franklin Myles, sack and tackle and forced fumble. Mark Barron, 8 tackles. Michael Brockers, John Johnson, Marcus Peters, 7 tackles. LaMarcus Joyner, 6 tackles. Aaron Donald, 5 tackles. He'll be more important, of course, later on in different Super Bowls. Samson Egbukum and Dante Flower and Aqib Talib, 4 tackles each. The special teams of this game, and let's be honest, I would have the punters being the special teams, but that would be like egregious to me. Stephen Gostkowski were the only points of the game. 1 for 1 extra point and 2 for 3 on field goals. Total yards in this game, New England 407 to 260 on the Rams, and 1 turnover each. But look at the score, man. I just feel so horrible watching that game. And it's not on the commentators, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, who were peak at that time. Let's just say that this was the peak of Tony Romo, Jim Nantz doing commentating. Right now, they're like, not so great. But it's not on the commentators, it's not on the field, it's not on anything else. It just happens, You get Super Bowls like this, you get great Super Bowls like the one I did in Super Bowl 52 and 51, and you get Super Bowls like this. It happens. Super Bowl's gonna have these kind of games. It happens. So, and also, this is probably the first time I'm gonna say these words. This is the first Patriots game that I covered in any Super Bowl that does not even involve a blowout or any close game. Like, every single Tom Brady Super Bowl that I've done involved like a close game, of course. Yes, every single Tom Brady New England Patriots game in the Super Bowl that I covered was like a close game, like 1 possession game, of course. This is the only one that I find by more than 8 points. Like, I just can't. And unfortunately, Akeem, that is not the reason why the Super Bowl was bad, or the reason why the Super Bowl exists, of course. I think it's time for me to tell you a little personal story, and I'm going to go off the scoreboard and tell you a little story, of course. Now, for anybody who don't know, I am born in August 17th, 1997. I'm a 90s kid, of course, which means if you're a 90s kid, which programs do you associate with 90s cartoons, of course? Your Courage the Cowardly Dog, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Edd n Eddy. I watch all of those. Codename, King's Next Door, I watch all of them. One of my favorite TV shows at that time was SpongeBob. I am a SpongeBob fanatic. Not as crazy in today's world, because SpongeBob in today's situation is how do I say it? SpongeBob back then was goated as it is now. Generations and different creators and all kinds of stuff. The person who creates SpongeBob, let me see if I can get this name, by the way. Let me just see if I can get this name. Oh, yes. Yes. This is the person that was responsible for all the greatness of SpongeBob in his heyday. Mr. Steven Hillenburg, by the way, who sadly passed away in October of 2018, of course, just a couple of months before Super Bowl, of course. And this guy was an incredible personality. And the guy was the reason why this show radiates with so many children, including myself, back then. And, the NFL decided they wanted to do something about it, to honor his memory, of course. And they decided to do it in the most bizarro way you ever imagine. Now, if you're a kid, I'm going to take him off right now and saying RIP to this dude. Wonderful guy. If you're a kid watching the Super Bowl back then, or haven't heard about SpongeBob, but everybody knows about SpongeBob based on the memes, the culture, the episodes, all the kind of stuff. If you're a kid watching the Super Bowl and you know SpongeBob, you saw for a couple of minutes, of course, the only good thing that ever happened from that halftime show, of course. The SpongeBob episode that I'm talking about was Band Geeks, one of the most iconic episodes in all of SpongeBob, and probably the last greatness of the SpongeBob era at that time, before the SpongeBob era, as we all know it, is not so hot right now, which, by the way, I kind of grew out of the SpongeBob cartoon thing. I still watch anime shows, but mostly of the anime kind of type. Adult animation, of course. This is the kind of era that I'm in right now. It's fine, of course. It is what it is in the generations. But during that Super Bowl, millions of children are watching. And remember, these are children watching Super Bowls, by the way. Not just adults, or not just kids, or these are children watching the Super Bowl. And adults who watched the SpongeBob show back then when they're a kid are actually watching Super Bowls. This was 50 minutes. Let me just see how many people watching the Super Bowl, by the way. Let me just see how many people watched that Super Bowl. This was Super Bowl 53. Let's just look at the viewership. Let's just look at the viewership. Let's see the viewership. How many people watched that Super Bowl, by the way? How many people watched that Super Bowl? Let's just see. 200 million people watched that Super Bowl. Huh. Okay. Oh, right. All right. I think that's the wrong number, because it was Super Bowl 58. This was supposed to be Super Bowl 50, not Super Bowl 53. Let me just hold up. This is already a longer video than it is. So thank you all. Comment, like, subscribe for this video. Let me just look at the Super Bowl 53 numbers. 98.2 million people watched that Super Bowl. 98.2 million people watched that Super Bowl, which means 98.2 adults, children's, workers, all this kind of stuff. And, some people, of course, who don't care about football as much, but also care about fashion and all kinds of stuff. 98 million people watched that Super Bowl, which was an egregious Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl nonetheless. And then, half the audiences, mostly children, all kinds of stuff, just look at that halftime show and see Band Geeks and see Squidward and Sandy Cheeks and Patrick Star and SpongeBob and Plankton and Mr. Krabs and all those great characters that I know, that I grew up, of course, watching. And it was such an incredible feeling. And for Steven Hillenburg, if he's looking down at heaven right now, he must be thinking to himself, my God, all these characters that I've drawn and grown up and all kinds of stuff, it's so incredible for this Super Bowl to happen. And then, the ultimate dick punch. The ultimate punch every single heart of every single children growing up and every single children that are in now. Instead of the Bang Geeks tribute Super Bowl that many people love, they decided to snap their fingers and decided to turn into sicko mode. Yes, children. Sicko freaking mode. This is not against Travis Scott, by the way. This is not against Travis Scott. We do not condone Travis Scott's hatred in this channel. But for the entire Super Bowl to be honoring SpongeBob and Steven Hillenburg and to turn into freaking sicko mode ruins me! It ruins me, damn it! It ruins me. It ruins a lot of children. It ruins a lot of adults who watch SpongeBob back when they're kids. I bet you one thing. I bet you if you go to a reaction of the Super Bowl halftime show, I bet you children are crying right now. Children who grew up watching SpongeBob, who knows about SpongeBob, who watched SpongeBob when they were like, 90s kids. They just cannot believe that a Super Bowl halftime show will be turned into this. They just take the great Steven Hillenburg name and stomp it to the ground, NFL. Stomp it to the ground. And as a 90s kid, as someone who watched the Super Bowl, I don't watch many Super Bowl halftime shows as much, but I'll tell you one thing. The moment that they turned the Bang Geeks tribute into sicko mode, I would have thrown the TV off. I would have thrown the TV into the river, and my childhood would be ruined. My entire childhood was ruined. I mean, there are many childhoods being ruined by, watching Disney movies that were good back then, but kind of like disturbing, of course. But this was kind of like the thing of like, my God, you just destroyed 98 million adults who has watched SpongeBob back in the 90s and turned into a sicko mode. I think that pretty much explains why Nickelodeon wanted to sign a deal with NFL, because they just decided, hey, congratulations on scarring many children's faces for the rest of our lives. Now you sign a deal and make Nickelodeon the kid partner of the NFL, which they did. Or maybe this is like somewhere down the line, but this is more like theory crafting, of course. And don't get me wrong about the national anthem and the pregame, of course, ceremony. That was egregious, of course. So you combine the pregame stuff, you combine that with a game that is so egregious, of course, in terms of offense, of course. You do that with an absolute ripping of the children's hearts of a tribute to a legend and turn it into sicko mode. It just made the Super Bowl absolutely egregious and worse. And I hope they decided to burn the Super Bowl to the ground and forget about the Super Bowl, other than the fact that the Patriots won their 6th Super Bowl, which, by the way, tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the most Super Bowls ever, which is ridiculous to say that even back then. If you're a Steelers fan and you're thinking to yourself, oh, 6 Super Bowls, nobody can catch us, and then Tom Brady and Belichick happen. Whoops. I guess that's where the breaks come. This is egregious. This entire Super Bowl was egregious from start to finish. And by the way, kids, this is literally the same place where they did WrestleMania. And that was the worst WrestleMania of all time. What is it with Georgia hosting big events other than the Masters, by the way? Like, Jesus Christ. And, oh, by the way, kids, they're going to be hosting Super Bowl 62 in the next 2 years. So make that what you will. Hopefully we have a better Super Bowl than this. I just hope. Anyways, thank you all for watching and me ranting about it. I'm sorry that I just speak about it, but, when it comes to my childhood, man, I have to protect my childhood. I have to protect my heart. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Hopefully Super Bowl 54 will be a much better Super Bowl. I hope. And we see you all tomorrow, everyone.